How's it going, guys? I'm back. It's been a little minute, about 2 weeks. Just trying to recover from surgery and everything, but I am back at work, which is a good thing. Today, I want to go over some shedding tips for your ball python. A lot of people have issues with shedding with their ball python, getting stuck shed and stuff like that, especially if you live in an area that has it typically tends to be real arid and dry. The humidity is real bad. So if you have a ball python, say in like Arizona or something like that, you're probably going to have some problems. So these are just a few tips, a lot of things that I personally use for my ball python to where, I don't have any shedding issues. Now, it's much easier for me because I live in a pretty humid climate. I live on the East Coast, so, it's much easier for my ball python to shed. But for a lot of other people, they may have some problems, but these hopefully will help you, like if you live in a drier climate, how to keep the humidity up for your snake. So number one on the list, substrate. This is the most important out of all of them, because if the substrate is wrong, it'll screw everything else up on the humidity. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of choices when it comes to substrate to pick one that is better for humidity. A lot of people are using aspen substrate. It's a good substrate, but it's not good for humidity. Okay, it's good. It's real good, like if you have, say, like a hognose snake or a corn snake or something like that doesn't really require a whole lot of humidity. But aspen with a ball python isn't good because aspen reduces the humidity in the area. It does not retain water, and if it does get wet, it tends to mold, so that's not good. So the best types of substrate to use is coconut husk. That's a really good substrate. It doesn't mold that bad. I've heard some people talk about it sometimes molding, like the coconut fiber sometimes molding, but the coconut husk, it's really good. It retains water really well. Ball pythons tend to do really well with it. I personally haven't used it, but I know several other people, keepers, breeders that have used it, and they swear by the coconut husk. It's really good. Reptichip is also really good, holds humidity real well. Doesn't hurt the snake at all, so Reptichip is definitely good. The substrate that I personally use is the Zoomed Forest Floor. It is a cypress mulch. It's absolutely amazing. I love it. Holds water real well and tends to be damp out of the bag, so you don't really even have to mist it down, although sometimes I do, but it tends to be damp out of the bag as soon as you get it, so it holds the moisture while it's still in the bag, so which is really cool. I don't have any problems using that substrate, so I definitely recommend that if you're using a different type of substrate to either use the coconut husk, the Reptichip, or the cypress mulch. That's the best thing. Number two, the type of terrarium or enclosure you use can definitely affect the humidity level. So there's a lot of controversy when it comes to terrariums versus plastic tubs. As long as you set it up right, either one will work. However, I will say that if you're using a plastic tub, you can have the humidity too high. And the way to control that with the plastic tub, I'll get to that in a minute. But first I'm going to start off with the terrarium. So I did a video on the Exoterra medium low terrarium. That's actually one of my favorite types of terrariums because it is front opening, it has a split in the glass, and it also has vents in the front. So what's really cool is you can place a towel or some wax paper or something on top, and the snake will still have plenty of air, plenty of ventilation, but heat rises. So as the heat from the heat pad and everything is heating up the substrate, all that moisture is going up. Well, it goes up through the mesh. But if you have the mesh covered, it'll go back down and it'll start, keeping the area nice and humid. So if you're using a Exoterra terrarium, one of the front opening terrariums, you can just put a wet towel over top, or you can put a piece of paper on top. The thing is, you don't want it to get too humid, which is why I'm going to talk about plastic tubs. I've seen a lot of people with their plastic tubs, and when they open the tubs, it's just water everywhere, like water droplets hanging down and everything. You don't need to keep it that humid for a ball python. Ball pythons need humidity. Of course they do. But they don't need 90 and 100% humidity. Ball pythons are more comfortable in the 60 to 75% range. You want to keep them in the 60-65% range normally, because that's where they're most comfortable, and then when they're shedding, you kind of want to ramp it up to about 75. You don't want to have it all wet in there all the time. They're not a rainforest species. They need humidity, but they don't live in the rainforest. So you don't, it's not like you're keeping a frog or something, or a false water cobra or something like that. They don't need the humidity 100% all the time. They need high humidity, but they don't need ridiculously high humidity. And that's the thing. A lot of people put these things in plastic tubs, and they drill a couple holes and then they close it, and yeah, it retains humidity really well, better than any terrarium. I'm not arguing that, but it can be a little high. And too high of humidity can lead to respiratory infections, and you don't want your ball python to have a respiratory infection. So you want to keep the humidity at the proper level. So if you don't have an Exoterra terrarium, if you just have one of those standard, Zoo-Med or whatever, hell, even aquariums or whatever, you can use the same method. But kind of leave a little bit of ventilation on top. So what you can do, if you need to increase the humidity while they're shedding, you can put some paper or a towel on top, a wet towel, and that'll keep the humidity in the tank. And you can kind of just leave it open just a little bit, so air can still flow through. Number 3, and I swear by this stuff, sphagnum moss. That is the best thing on the market to keep humidity up in a tank. It only costs a few bucks, like $5-6. You can buy it at any pet shop. Some people say they buy it at Home Depot or something like that. I tried to find some there. I didn't find any there. I found plenty of moss at Home Depot. I didn't find any sphagnum moss. So I don't know. Maybe mine just doesn't have it. Sorry. Anyway, sphagnum moss is amazing. The way I do it is I put some in like a little bowl and get it nice and wet, squeeze it out. I spread some over the terrarium itself, and then I put it on the hide, because the hide's going to get warm, and then some of it's going to evaporate, so it's going to keep that area nice and humid. Also, you can put a little bit in the hide, but not too much, but you can put some in the hide, and they like that a lot too. So sphagnum moss, definitely. And 4, the trick with the wax paper. So with the Exoterra terrariums, the front openings, the one that open up from the front, the one that have the front ventilation, you can just put wax paper completely on top, cover the whole thing, tape it up, and while they're shedding, it'll keep everything nice and humid in there. You won't have any problems. There'll be plenty of ventilation in the front, and you won't have any issues. If you're using the wax paper on a normal terrarium, one that doesn't open from the front, one that opens from the top and just has the screen on top and nothing else, you can still put the wax paper on top, but like I said before, make sure that you keep enough ventilation on top. You can still put the wax paper on top, but don't tape it off and seal it completely. Just put it on top, leave a little bit of ventilation open to where air can still ventilate through, and you'll be fine. It'll be nice and humid in there. You'll see the effect it does. Like, it creates like a nice little foggy effect in there, which again, when they're shedding, that's good. That means the humidity is around 75-80%, and that's what they need to shed. So that'll be really good for them. Last thing I want to talk about is mist occasionally, and you can kind of tell. You should be using a hydrometer to tell what the humidity level is in there. They're not that expensive. You can get them pretty much anywhere. You can get them on Amazon. Some pet stores sell them. But use a hydrometer. That way you can tell the exact humidity level in the terrarium. you want to, like I said, mist it occasionally. So get your little spray bottle or whatever, and if it seems a little dry in there, if the humidity is like down like 40% or whatever, mist it occasionally, and that should bring it up to the 55, 65 level. That'll be fine. But like I said, 60 to 65% is what they need normally. 70 to 75%, even up to 80% is what they need to shed properly. So try those pointers, and hope your snakes shed nicely. Hope you don't have any problems with any stuck shed. If you have any issues with stuck shed, stay tuned, because I will be posting a video if you do get stuck shed, how to deal with it and stuff like that. So I will see you guys later, and I'll be posting pretty soon because I have to go get something for my snake, and I'm going to do another video on that. So have a good one.